Hey puzzlers, this is Steve here with another video on how to solve some logic puzzles. This one's known as tile paint. How it works is the numbers along the outside of the grid indicate how many cells in that given row or column are going to be shaded. Each region must either be completely shaded or left unshaded. So what that means is if we look at this cell here, if that's shaded, all the other cells have to be shaded as well. You can't just have one cell in a region shaded and the others unshaded. So that's it for the rules. What I'm going to go ahead and do is try to solve this example puzzle for you guys, sharing some common tips and tricks along the way that'll hopefully make it easier for you to solve this type of puzzle yourself in the future. Now, I did pull this particular puzzle from my recently published book on Amazon. I'll post a link in the description below. Would love it if you guys would check it out. But without further ado, let's get to solving. So the first place that I would start with these puzzles are going to be the very large numbers. And what you're trying to do is not just locate which cells must be shaded, but which cells must not be shaded. So that is also going to help. And with this being a 10 by 10, we know that any given column that has a 7, you know there's going to be 3 unshaded cells and 7 shaded cells. If you have say a 4, you know, in this row there's going to be 4 shaded cells and 6 unshaded cells. So that's really helpful to keep in mind. So starting at the big numbers, I see this 7. I'm going to immediately look to see if there's any regions that are more than 3. If there's, say, a region that's 4 wide, you would know that that would have to be shaded in. Otherwise, it would break the rule, because there can only be 3 unshaded cells. So we don't have any 4 or bigger regions, but we do have a 3 region here. This region has 3 in that column. And if we think about this, if this is unshaded, right, this region, if it's unshaded, all the other ones have to be shaded. And what that does is it spills into the other columns to the right, right? If this is shaded, then this whole region has to be shaded. So if we think about that, if this is unshaded, this must be shaded, shading these 2 over here, and these would have to be shaded, also shading these 2 over here, because those regions would be completely filled. And what that does is that breaks the 3, because now all of a sudden there's 1, 2, 3, 4 shaded cells in that column. So what that tells me is these cannot be unshaded, right? Because again, that would shade everything else. So these have to be shaded, and therefore the whole region needs to be shaded. We'll fill that in. And we can apply that same concept, I think, to this 7 as well. So if we look at this 7, there's a 3 region here, and this is a very important region. If we consider this as unshaded, everything else would have to be shaded, right? And what that would end up doing is if this cell's shaded, all of these would have to be shaded. And if this cell's shaded, all of these would have to be shaded. And that breaks this 4, because now all of a sudden you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells breaking the 4. So this cannot be unshaded. It has to be shaded. Now, from there, we can see if this 7 is going to be of any help. And unfortunately, I don't think so, because they're all, you know, two or 1s wide. Now, if we think about this 5, this is a pretty big region here. If this is shaded, that solves it, because we already have 1 plus this 4. So it's either going to be this shaded like that, or all of these shaded. Oops, I'm sorry. These shaded, right? So I don't think this can be shaded here, because that would give us 1, 2, and then we have all the rest are even numbers. So this is what I mean by my tip of considering even and odd numbers. We have an odd number, and so if we shade this in, there's no way we're going to get to an odd number, because we have 1, 2, and then here are 2s, 2, 4. There's no way we could get to 5. So this cannot be shaded in. So I'm going to put an X there, knowing that that region's not shaded. So again, it's either going to be these 4 or these 4. If it's these 4, I think that's okay, because we still have, there's only 3 for this 4. It would also have to be this this down here, because we have these 3 plus we would need one more, so it'd be this one. That's okay. If it's these, I think that's going to be okay because it doesn't. Oh, it's not going to be okay because if we think about this 2, I should have caught this earlier. This 2 can't have these 3 here be shaded. So every region in this column has to be 2s or 1s. This 3 is too much. It would break the 2 rule. So those have to be unshaded. And now that solves this 5 because we only have 1, a 4, and 2. So there's no way this can be shaded. It has to be this region here. And so now what we've done is we've solved the 5. That entire row is now complete. Now this 3, we can have either these 2 or these 2. Now I don't think we can quite figure that one out yet. If we think about the, let's look at this. Well, let's see, where do I want to go from here? This 7 needs 3 unshaded cells. We already have 1, so we need 2 more. So this has to be shaded in, and the reason I see that is because if this is unshaded, that would be, right, let's hypothetically say that's unshaded. That would only be 2 unshaded cells, and we would need 1 more, and there's no 1 more single cell. This is a region of 2 wide, 2 wide, 2 wide. So this has to be shaded in. And now we know that this 7 is almost done. So one of these cells, or one of these regions, is going to be unshaded. Now, I'm not quite sure if we can figure that out quite yet. So let's look elsewhere. This 4. So we already have 1, 2, 3 shaded cells in that row. We need just 1 more. So any region that has 2 wide has to be unshaded. Otherwise, it'd be, if we had 1, 2, 3, and we filled in this region, that'd be 5. So we know this region here is unshaded, and we know this region here is unshaded. And we know we have to shade in either this cell, or this cell. We actually can't shade in this one because it would spill down to the rest of that region, and this 3 would be broken because you'd have these 2 and these 2. So this row is just like the 4. We need just 1 more. So any regions 2 wide or more cannot be filled in. And if we think about this 4 here, we need 1 more because we have 3. So any regions that are more than 1 tall cannot be shaded in. So this here cannot be shaded, otherwise the one below it would be shaded and you'd have 5 breaking this 4. So that's unshaded. This is unshaded. And this is unshaded because it's too tall. So that means there's only 1 cell left. It's that one, 1, 2, 3, 4. And since that's going to be shaded, the whole region's going to be shaded. And that's a big region, so that's super helpful. Now we've solved for the 4. Now we think about this 7. We already have 7. We only need 3 unshaded, right? And there's only 3 cells left. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one. No, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 1 more shaded cell. And I'm not sure if we can figure that out quite yet. Oh, this 4 is almost solved. We look at this row, there's only 1 cell left, and we need 1 more shaded cell because we have 1, 2, 3. So we need this one to be shaded in. And that is part of a bigger region. So if that cell is shaded, the rest of that region is also shaded, which solves this 3 now. So these 2 are no longer. And we're making good progress. So this 7, we need to find 3 unshaded cells, right? 10, there's 10 cells total, so if 7 are shaded, 3 are going to be unshaded. We already have 2, so we can't have any regions more than 1 wide be left unshaded, because if we unshade this one, we have to unshade that one, and then it's 4 unshaded. Same thing here. If we leave this unshaded, that leaves this one unshaded, making it 4. So these 2 cell wide regions have to be shaded in, otherwise they break the unshaded rule. So those are all shaded in, which now if we look at this 7, we need 1 more unshaded cell. We have 1, 2, we need 1 more. So that's it there, because that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shaded cells in that column. This 2 already has 1 shaded cell, so we need just 1 more. So this region cannot be shaded, otherwise it would be 3 and break it. So that's unshaded. Where to now? This 3 is interesting because we have, it's going to be a 2 and a 1 pair. So it's either going to be these 2. It can't be both, right? It can't be these 2 and these 2. That would not be allowed. I'm not sure how that's helpful. This 5, though, we can solve, because if we think about it, we have 2. This is that even and odd tip here. So we have 2 2s and 1 3. So the only way to make a 5 is we need the 3 to be in it, right? Because if the 3 is not in it, we can only get 4. So this 3 needs to be shaded in. And that solves the 7, because now we know that these are going to be unshaded. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that column's done. This 3 now we can come back to. We know it's these 2 down here plus 1 more. So these are not shaded up here. And that solves the 7, because we have 1, 2, 3 unshaded cells. So we know that this can't be unshaded. Okay. And now this 3 row needs 1 more shaded cell. We only have 1, 2. There's 1 left. So that must be shaded in, which would then shade in the rest of that region. Solving this 3, making this cell no longer shaded. Those 3 unshaded cells solves the 7, because 10 minus 7 is 3. 3 cells must be unshaded, making the rest all shaded. Like that. That solves this 2 column, because we have 1, 2. So this is unshaded. And that solves the 5, because we only have 3. We need 2 more. There's only 2 left. So that is now shaded in. And there you have it. That is how you solve a tile paint. Lots of fun. I really like it. This is probably one of my favorite types of puzzles out there. It is actually one of the more popular ones too, so it's real easy to find places out there to solve these. Again, my book has 4 of them in it. I'll post the link in the description below. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Thanks everyone. Hope you have a good night.